In order to gain a deeper understanding of Paul and what he believes, I interviewed many different people around Boone, North Carolina to see what they thought about Paul and his views on women in ministry. I asked each interviewee this question: when you think of Paul and his views on women in ministry, what do you think? Each person that I interviewed was raised in a different background. Some were raised in the Catholic Church, while others were raised in the Methodist Church. So each person brought something different to the table. Here's what I found. This is Bree. She grew up in a Catholic church.
I grew up in Catholic school, so I was constantly around women in the church. My aunt was even a nun, so it was normal for women to have roles in ministry, but I've never seen women in high positions such as priest or the Pope. In my opinion, women have limited roles. When I think of Paul, I think of an indifferent character whose main concern was not women's rights.
This is Olivia. She grew up in a Pentecostal church.
So when I think of Paul and women in ministry, I think of 1 Corinthians 12:7, where Paul says, "The manifestations of the Spirit is given to everyone for the common good." And by everyone, he means men and women. And these manifestations are words of wisdom, word of knowledge, faith, healing, working of miracles, prophecy, discernment, speaking of tongues, and interpretation of tongues. And I and Paul believe that the Holy Spirit doesn't discriminate who these gifts and manifestations are given to, but that they're equally given to everyone in every gender.
This is Felder Ann. She grew up in a Baptist church.
When I think of Paul, I think of him as someone who believes that men are to lead women. Specifically, I think of Ephesians 5:22 and 23, which says, "Wives, be subject to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife." So in my opinion, women shouldn't be the ones to lead a ministry. Women should be the ones to serve men so that they may better be the ones leading in the ministry.
This is Carla. She grew up in a Methodist church.
I've been in the Methodist church ever since I was born, and ever since I remember, we've had women ministers, and they preach sermons, they marry people, they bury people, they baptize, and they do all the things that men are able to do. They basically run the church, and even there were women ministers who were elders in the church and baptized my children. When I think of Paul, I think that he would be supportive of women in ministry. There were women disciples in the Bible. There were some at the foot of the cross, and I feel like we don't know their names because the men likely changed the names when they translated the different versions, and as it was brought down through time. But I think that Paul actually be supportive of women being leaders. He actually addresses women in many of his writings, so I think that he would definitely be supportive.
My point in observing the opinions on the Apostle Paul and his views on women in ministry is to demonstrate just how vast the opinions on this topic are. I believe that the opinions are so vast because Paul's letters in a way do contradict themselves. For example, Paul says in 1 Timothy 2:12 that he does not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be kept quiet. But then in Romans 16, he addresses women such as Phoebe, who he calls a deacon of the church and a benefactor of many, including himself. I believe that the opinions on women in ministry are so diverse because there are various combinations of Paul's words. People find numerous reasons to argue for and to argue against Paul's words, and different denominations over time have adopted different visions for their personal church according to what they personally believe Paul's words are saying.